The moment the alien sensors picked up the signal, the room fell silent. Hundreds of advanced instruments blinked and hummed, translating data into patterns the alien minds could barely comprehend. For years, they had believed humans were just another primitive species hiding somewhere on the outskirts of explored space. Stories of human ingenuity had circulated, whispered in galactic councils as myths, tales told by traders and travelers about a species that could survive anything. But now before them there was proof. A massive vessel moving purposefully through the void. A human warship unlike anything they had ever encountered. At first, they approached with a mix of curiosity and caution. Their technology allowed them to scan objects light years away, to penetrate armor and walls to observe without being observed. They sent drones invisible to the naked eye into the void around the ship. The drones circled, measuring energy outputs, taking note of structural patterns, examining every inch of the ship's exterior. It was sleek, streamlined, and yet somehow chaotic, as if its design defied conventional logic. The aliens expected order, symmetry, predictable engineering. What they saw instead was something different, something terrifying in its simplicity and efficiency. They could detect the power source first. Unlike the cold, predictable energy cores used by other species, this ship pulsed with something alive, almost organic. Its output fluctuated, not randomly, but in a way that suggested intelligence, as though the ship itself were aware of what it might need to do. The aliens studied these fluctuations in silence. Their leading scientist, a tall being with elongated limbs and eyes that shimmered with multiple spectrums, frowned. "It adapts," the scientist whispered. "It is learning even while we watch." The other observers exchanged nervous vibrations, the equivalent of human gasps. No machine they had ever seen could adapt so quickly, anticipate external forces before they happened, and adjust in real time. The exterior scanning revealed more surprises. The ship was armored, yes, but the armor was strange. It was light, yet the scans suggested it could withstand bombardments that would tear apart even the heaviest battlecruisers in their fleet. There were sections that seemed to shift subtly, panels that rearranged themselves almost invisibly, enhancing defense or altering aerodynamics depending on the conditions. The aliens had never seen a material that could behave this way. They ran simulations, tried to understand the principles behind it, and every test failed. The humans had built something that seemed to break every rule of engineering they had learned over centuries. Then they focused on the weapons. At first, they detected nothing unusual. There were turrets, missile bays, energy cannons, all standard systems by alien standards. But further analysis revealed the unexpected. The weapons were compact but more powerful than any system of similar size they had encountered. Some seemed to regenerate, as if the ship could repair its own weapons mid-battle. Others adapted automatically, analyzing threats and calibrating in ways that would have required an entire alien research facility to achieve. The aliens calculated the potential damage this single ship could inflict on a fleet their size, and a wave of unease rippled through them. But the most disturbing discovery was not the ship itself. It was the crew. The aliens watched as human figures moved inside, their motions coordinated almost preternaturally. In their simulations, other species made mistakes under pressure, hesitation, minor errors that could be exploited. Not these humans. Every movement was precise, efficient, and intelligent. They adapted instantly to simulations of attacks and emergencies, demonstrating a level of improvisation that the aliens had been taught to call genius. Even in moments of simulated crisis, humans made decisions that seemed reckless, yet always resulted in survival or victory. The aliens realized with growing horror that this was not just a machine they were observing. It was a machine guided by minds capable of creativity, courage, and unpredictability. They began scanning deeper, moving past the decks into the heart of the ship. Here they detected systems that were utterly alien in nature, even to their advanced technology. The engines did not run on conventional fuel or energy. There were hidden conduits and strange reactors, interwoven with the ship's framework as if the entire vessel were alive in some sense. The aliens attempted to trace these systems, to map them out, and found themselves baffled. Every time they thought they understood, a new layer revealed itself. The ship was modular, self-repairing, capable of changing its internal layout depending on circumstances. And yet, despite all this sophistication, the humans moved within it as naturally as if they were walking on solid ground. Fear began to creep into the minds of the observers. They had faced powerful civilizations before, but none had been so self-sufficient, so unyielding, so unpredictable. The aliens whispered among themselves in patterns that humans could not understand, debating what course of action they should take. Should they approach? Should they retreat? Should they send a message? Every option seemed to carry risks they could not calculate. They had underestimated humans before, but this warship suggested that humans had been quietly preparing for centuries, building and refining, always silent, always patient. Time passed slowly as the aliens continued their study. The humans, as far as they could tell, were unaware of being observed. They maintained routines, drills, maintenance, training, and preparation. Every crew member, every officer, every pilot operated with a level of cohesion that made the aliens uncomfortable. It was clear that these humans were not just skilled, they were relentless. They would endure, survive, adapt, and overcome, and that meant that any attempt at confrontation would not be straightforward, would not be safe, and could easily turn catastrophic. The aliens debated among themselves what to report back to their leaders. Words like dangerous, unpredictable, and lethal were repeated, but none seemed adequate. They had faced other warships before, entire fleets, and had always been able to calculate outcomes with reasonable certainty. But this was different. The humans introduced variables they could not account for, a level of improvisation that was terrifying in its potential. One alien remarked quietly, almost to itself, "We are not ready for this." And for the first time, the alien scientists understood what humans might represent. Not just another species in the galaxy, but a force of nature unstoppable once provoked. As the human warship continued its silent journey through space, the aliens could only watch, helpless to influence its course. They logged data, performed scans, ran simulations, but the results were the same. Humans were beyond anything they had prepared for. The fear in the observation room was palpable, not for themselves, but for the galaxy at large. If one ship could be this dangerous, what would happen if humans decided to expand, to defend, to retaliate? The aliens did not need to ask. They already knew the answer, and it was enough to chill them to their cores. And still, the humans carried on, unaware of the terror they inspired. They checked systems, ran drills, shared quiet conversations, and looked out into the stars. To them, this was routine. This was preparation. This was survival. They did not know, and perhaps they never would, that their mere presence was enough to shake an entire civilization to its foundations. The aliens left the observation post eventually, their sensors retracting, their minds still grappling with what they had seen. They would report their findings, and the galaxy would listen. And the humans? They would continue silent and determined as they always had. The legend of human resilience, ingenuity, and unpredictability had been confirmed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The aliens could not stop themselves from staring at the images streaming through their holographic displays. They had expected to see a machine, something mechanical, predictable, and easy to understand. Instead, they saw humans moving through the warship with an efficiency that was almost frightening. Each crew member knew their role perfectly, but it was not rigid. There was a rhythm to their movements, a coordination that suggested training, experience, and instinct combined. The aliens tried to calculate the speed and precision of human actions, but every calculation fell short. These humans seemed to anticipate problems before they happened. The alien analysts zoomed in, focusing on small details. One human adjusted a console while another recalibrated a turret. Every action had a purpose, and nothing seemed wasted. Even repairs that should have taken hours were done in minutes, often while the crew was simultaneously performing other tasks. The aliens' processors struggled to model these interactions. They had never encountered a species that could multitask with such effectiveness under pressure. They observed closely as humans executed drills, responding to hypothetical attacks from every possible angle. In each simulation, the humans adapted, modified their approach, and improved in real time. What unnerved the aliens most was how humans thought outside of the patterns they could anticipate. When faced with simulated scenarios, humans didn't just follow protocol, they improvised. A section of the ship might fail in the simulation, and immediately crew members would find a creative workaround. The aliens calculated the outcomes of these improvisations, expecting errors or failures. There were none. It was as though humans thrived on problems, seeing them as opportunities rather than obstacles. The aliens began to realize that predicting human behavior in conflict was virtually impossible. They examined the ship's command systems. Humans operated them with a combination of skill and intuition. Controls were not only physical but also mental. The crew seemed to communicate without words, reading subtle cues from each other's posture, gestures, and expressions. Alien researchers tried to replicate the patterns of communication and coordination, but it was futile. The humans' connection was organic, adaptable, and seamless. It did not rely on technology alone. It relied on human awareness, judgment, and instinct. Even the most sophisticated alien algorithms could not replicate that level of cooperation. The aliens next focused on weapon systems. They had already seen the power of the human warship, but now they could see how it was managed. Humans did not just operate weapons. They anticipated enemy moves, calculated angles, and adapted strategies on the fly. The aliens watched as humans recalibrated turrets in response to invisible threats, adjusted energy outputs for maximum efficiency, and coordinated attacks that combined multiple systems in perfect harmony. In every simulated engagement, humans were precise, efficient, and almost impossible to predict. The aliens were astonished. These were not just soldiers. They were strategists, engineers, and improvisers all rolled into one. Then came the moment that truly shook the alien observers. They watched as humans engaged in simulated battle drills that involved multiple crises happening at once. A meteor strike simulation, combined with a systems failure and a simulated boarding attempt, all occurred simultaneously. The humans moved as though it were routine. One human patched a breach, another coordinated energy flows to failing systems, while others managed weapon outputs. Not a single order was repeated unnecessarily, and every action had immediate effect. The aliens could not keep up with the sequence of events. They began to understand that this human warship was not just powerful. It was adaptive, alive in a sense, and guided by minds that were both brilliant and relentless. Fear began to spread in the alien observation chamber. They had observed countless species, from small colonies to massive empires, and they had always been able to anticipate weaknesses. With humans, there were none that could be found. The aliens tried again and again to model human reactions. Every time the humans defied expectations. They were not predictable. They were not merely clever. They were dangerous in ways that were fundamentally different from anything the aliens had encountered. It was no longer a matter of curiosity. It was a matter of survival. The aliens moved on to studying the psychological aspects of the crew. Humans were not machines. They showed emotion, but in ways that enhanced their efficiency rather than hindering it. Calm under stress, decisive when faced with danger, and willing to take calculated risks that seemed reckless to alien eyes. They were an enigma. The aliens could not comprehend how a crew could remain so composed while managing complex systems under simulated attacks that would have panicked other species. There was a method to it, but it was not purely logical. It was instinct, experience, and a strange resilience unique to humans. Next, the aliens examined the interaction between crew and technology. Humans did not rely solely on machines. They guided them, coaxed them, and improvised around their limitations. The warship itself seemed to respond to the crew's intentions. Energy flows shifted. Weapon systems adjusted automatically. Shields strengthened precisely where needed. It was as though the ship and crew were partners rather than master and tool. The aliens had never seen a species able to integrate so seamlessly with technology, to use it with such fluidity and intuition. Their attempts to simulate this kind of control failed completely. The humans also demonstrated creativity in unexpected ways. When faced with a simulated obstacle, they created tools or modified systems in real time. They found solutions that had never been taught or programmed, inventing techniques and strategies on the spot. Alien analysts realized that humans were not just using intelligence, they were inventing it as needed. Every problem could trigger a creative response, making the humans extraordinarily difficult to anticipate or control. For the aliens, this was terrifying. They could plan for armies, for fleets, for conventional strategies. But humans introduced variables they could not predict. As the scans continued, the aliens detected another unusual pattern. Humans seemed to thrive on pressure. In simulations of extreme danger, they performed even better. Mistakes by one crew member were immediately corrected by another, and energy and efficiency seemed to increase under duress. The aliens had never seen a species whose performance improved when confronted with multiple simultaneous crises. It was unnatural, or at least alien. The humans were not only skilled and intelligent, they were resilient in ways that no other species had ever demonstrated. Finally, the aliens tried to imagine a confrontation. They ran simulations trying to predict how humans would respond to attacks or sabotage. Every simulation ended the same way. The humans adapted, countered, and overcame with minimal loss. No strategy the aliens could devise had any effect. The humans' unpredictability, combined with their coordination, innovation, and resilience, made them a force the aliens could not calculate. They realized that underestimating humans was no longer an option. Even observation was dangerous because they could not anticipate the consequences of their own interference. The room fell quiet as the alien scientists exchanged data and predictions. Every scenario indicated the same terrifying truth. Humans were beyond the level of threat any other species had posed. A single human warship, properly managed, could potentially devastate an entire fleet. Not because of brute strength alone, but because of adaptability, intelligence, and instinct. The aliens had never faced a species that could think, adapt, and innovate in real time at such a scale. They began to understand that humans were not just participants in galactic affairs, they were wild cards, a force that could not be ignored, predicted, or controlled. Despite all the fear and fascination, the humans went about their routines as if nothing were happening. They ran maintenance, practiced drills, adjusted systems, and conversed quietly. Nothing about them indicated awareness of the alien gaze, and yet, every movement, every decision, every improvisation added to the impression of a species that had survived and thrived under conditions that would have destroyed others. The aliens continued to observe, but they did so with a mix of awe and dread. This was no ordinary military vessel. This was a living testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and unpredictability. By the time the alien analysts finally paused their observations, they had gathered mountains of data. But data alone could not convey the full picture. They understood, in a way numbers could not express, that humans were dangerous, not just because of their technology, but because of the minds guiding it. Intelligence, creativity, intuition, and courage, combined in ways that no algorithm could replicate. They realized that for any alien civilization, for any fleet or empire, humans were an unknown variable too powerful to ignore. The galaxy had underestimated them for too long, and now, the truth was undeniable. As the human warship continued its journey through the stars, the aliens withdrew, their minds racing. They would report back, they would warn others, but the message was clear. Humans were not predictable, they were not weak, and they were not to be trifled with. The warship, silent and relentless, moved on, unaware of the fear it had inspired, unaware that an entire civilization had been forced to rethink everything it knew about power, strategy, and survey. The aliens had observed many species across countless worlds, but what they were witnessing now was unlike anything they had ever encountered. As their scanners probed deeper into the human warship, they began to notice patterns and systems that made no logical sense to their trained minds. At first, the ship appeared ordinary, a massive vessel built for long journeys and defense. But closer analysis revealed anomalies that sent shivers through even the most experienced alien scientists. This was not just a warship. It was a masterpiece of adaptability and hidden power, and the more they observed, the more terrifying it became. The aliens focused on the hidden compartments first. On the surface, the ship seemed streamlined and neat, almost minimalist. But scans showed secret sections tucked away beneath layers of systems. Some of these compartments contained advanced weapons, more powerful than anything the aliens had seen at a similar scale. Others contained systems for repair, energy amplification, and even unknown functions that left the aliens puzzled. It was clear that the ship had been built for efficiency and unpredictability at the same time. Everything had a purpose, yet many systems were concealed so cleverly that only a human could operate them effectively. They watched the humans moving through the ship, checking systems, communicating with subtle gestures, and performing tasks that seemed almost impossible. The aliens were struck by how calm the crew remained even when the simulations became more complex. Meteoroids struck the hull, emergency lights flashed, alarms rang through the corridors, and yet humans worked seamlessly. One crew member redirected power to damaged sections while another adjusted weapon outputs, and a third coordinated shields to compensate for breaches in multiple locations. The aliens calculated what they could see and realized that no other species could have handled such a situation so effectively. The hidden systems revealed a disturbing truth. Humans were prepared for every scenario. The aliens could see the ship's internal defense mechanisms activating in anticipation of threats. Shields shifted. Energy flowed to critical systems. Weapons moved into optimal positions without orders. It was as if the ship could sense danger before it arrived, responding faster than any alien algorithm could predict. The aliens ran countless simulations trying to anticipate how humans might fail. And every time they failed themselves. No matter what obstacles they created in their models, the humans adapted, corrected, and often improved the situation. Then the aliens focused on the energy signatures of the ship. It was unlike anything they had ever recorded. There were surges and fluctuations, not chaotic but purposeful, almost like a heartbeat. The ship's energy systems appeared to be alive in a sense, responding to the crew and adjusting to conditions in ways the aliens could not fully comprehend. They tried to map the flow to understand how it worked, but every attempt revealed new patterns. It was not just power. It was intelligence embedded in the very structure of the ship. The aliens could not help but feel a creeping unease as they realized that the ship itself was part of the crew's strategy, a partner in their adaptability and unpredictability. As they continued to study the crew, the aliens noticed something more unsettling. Humans were fearless in a way that seemed unnatural. They did not panic, even when multiple alarms rang at the same time. They did not hesitate or wait for orders. Every individual took initiative, coordinated instinctively, and handled crises with precision. The aliens had observed species that relied heavily on hierarchical command structures, species that froze under pressure, species that became paralyzed when faced with unexpected challenges. Humans were none of these. They thrived under pressure, and the more chaotic the situation, the more capable they became. The aliens began to understand why humans had survived so long, despite their apparent weaknesses. Humans were resilient, adaptable, and intelligent, but not just in a predictable sense. They could improvise solutions, find weaknesses in enemy tactics, and exploit opportunities others could not see. The warship's design amplified these traits. It allowed humans to move freely, to adapt technology quickly, and to use the environment itself to their advantage. The aliens tried to find a flaw, a weak point they could exploit, but they could not. There was no vulnerability in the ship that humans did not already compensate for in their actions. Next, the aliens observed training exercises that simulated extreme battle conditions. Entire sections of the ship were destroyed in the simulation. Energy systems failed, communications went down, and external threats multiplied. Every time, humans responded with calm precision. One group repaired vital systems while another redirected weapons to prevent breaches, and yet another managed navigation to avoid damage. Even when the simulation intensified beyond reasonable expectations, humans adapted as if it were routine. The aliens' confidence began to falter. They had assumed that a species could only handle so much, but humans seemed limitless in their capacity to adapt and survive. The aliens then focused on human coordination. It was unlike anything they had ever recorded. Communication between crew members was instant and seamless, almost telepathic in its subtlety. They coordinated energy flows, weapons, shields, and repairs without a single wasted motion or word. When one human made a decision, others immediately adapted to it without confusion. The aliens tried to model this coordination mathematically, but the results were chaotic and unreliable. Humans did not follow predictable patterns. They created new patterns in response to changing situations. This unpredictability combined with efficiency made humans extraordinarily dangerous. As the hours passed, the aliens grew increasingly uneasy. Every observation reinforced the same conclusion. Humans were a species that could not be underestimated. It was not their technology alone that was terrifying. It was the combination of technology and human ingenuity. The ship was impressive, but it was the crew's ability to operate it under any conditions that made it truly formidable. Even when facing multiple simulated disasters at once, humans managed to not only survive but also improve their position, turn the situation in their favor, and maintain composure. The aliens had studied countless species, but none had demonstrated such a combination of intelligence, adaptability, and courage. The aliens' fear grew when they noticed the humans' ability to improvise new tactics on the fly. In the simulations, crew members would combine systems in unexpected ways, using weapons and shields creatively, manipulating energy flows, and adjusting the ship's trajectory in real time. These improvisations often produced better results than the original plan. The aliens were forced to acknowledge that humans were not just reactive, they were proactive, thinking ahead and preparing contingencies that were beyond any algorithmic prediction. Every action was deliberate, every decision calculated, yet it appeared spontaneous and intuitive. Even the smallest humans on board the ship played critical roles. There was no hierarchy that slowed decision-making. Everyone had the freedom and responsibility to act, and they did so with precision. Alien analysts realized that humans had created a system where individual initiative enhanced the effectiveness of the whole crew. Unlike species that relied on rigid chains of command, humans empowered themselves and each other to adapt instantly to any situation. This decentralized approach made them faster, smarter, and deadlier than any alien fleet could anticipate. Finally, the aliens turned their attention to the ship itself, beyond the crew. They discovered concealed systems capable of incredible feats. Hidden propulsion arrays, energy amplifiers, and advanced repair modules meant that the ship could continue functioning even under extreme damage. The humans' ability to leverage these systems effectively made them even more terrifying. Even if the aliens could destroy part of the ship, humans would respond, repair, and counterattack with lethal precision. It was a level of resilience the aliens had never seen. By the end of their observation, the aliens understood the full scale of the threat. They had underestimated humans for centuries, assuming them to be weak, unprepared, or conventional. Now they knew the truth. Humans were unpredictable, adaptable, fearless, and creative. They had mastered a level of coordination and improvisation that no other species could match. The human warship was not just a vessel. It was a living demonstration of the human mind's capacity to survive, innovate, and dominate in ways the aliens could not predict. As the human warship continued its journey, the aliens retreated to their observation post, silent and contemplative. They would report what they had seen, and every word would carry the same warning. Humans were not to be underestimated. The warship moved through space unaware of the fear it had inspired. The crew remained focused on their routine, drills, and preparation, confident in their abilities and unaware of how much their presence had shaken an entire civilization. The aliens' records would forever mark this as the moment they realized that humanity was not just a participant in galactic affairs, but a force to be reckoned with, a species that could not be predicted, controlled, or ignored. The aliens were now fully immersed in the study of the human warship, yet the deeper they looked, the more unsettling the picture became. They had expected to see a formidable machine, but instead, they found something that seemed alive, responsive, and terrifyingly clever. Every system, every corridor, every crew member, and every subtle gesture revealed layers of intelligence and adaptability that the aliens could not match. They had never encountered a species that combined technology, strategy, and instinct with such seamless efficiency. As the humans continued their routines, the aliens noticed how quickly they adapted to changing situations. In one simulation, a minor systems failure was introduced in the engine room. A human technician noticed the fault instantly, rerouted power to stabilize the ship, and began repairing the damage, all while the ship continued to move at high speed through a simulated asteroid field. Another human adjusted navigation calculations to avoid collisions, while others reinforced energy shields in vulnerable areas. The aliens ran countless simulations to predict possible errors, but the humans' responses were always flawless. They were not only surviving the challenges, they were excelling, finding ways to improve systems in real time, while managing multiple crises simultaneously. The aliens also observed the humans' ability to think strategically under pressure. They noticed how the crew constantly assessed risks, adapted their tactics, and coordinated actions across different sections of the ship. Even when facing unexpected threats, humans didn't panic. Instead, they responded with a level of calm and decisiveness that the aliens had never seen. It became clear that the humans were trained to expect the unexpected, and that no simulation, no scenario, and no combination of challenges could overwhelm them. This adaptability was more than skill. It was instinct, honed through generations of survival, exploration, and conflict. One of the most disturbing revelations for the aliens was the humans' capacity for improvisation. When a system malfunctioned or a simulated threat appeared, humans did not follow a set protocol. They improvised, combined resources creatively, and developed new solutions on the spot. The aliens watched as one crew member rerouted energy in a completely unexpected way, boosting the performance of multiple systems simultaneously. Another crew member adjusted weapon settings in response to a changing threat, anticipating enemy behavior in a way the aliens had never predicted. Each improvisation was precise, effective, and often better than any pre-planned solution. The aliens' fear intensified when they noticed the humans' ability to coordinate across distances within the ship. Even when separated by multiple decks or critical compartments, the crew moved as one. Commands were exchanged through subtle signals, gestures, and vocal cues that seemed almost instinctual. The aliens attempted to map these interactions, but they could not replicate the efficiency or precision. Each human acted independently yet as part of a unified whole, responding instantly to changing circumstances and adjusting their actions in perfect synchrony with their peers. The ship itself contributed to the humans' effectiveness. Its design allowed for flexibility, resilience, and adaptation. Hidden compartments and systems activated only when needed. Energy flows shifted to optimize performance, and repair modules worked autonomously to assist the crew. The aliens realized that the humans did not just operate the ship. They guided it, adapted it, and integrated with it as if it were an extension of themselves. The warship was a tool, a partner, and a weapon all at once, but it was the humans' minds that made it truly lethal. During another simulation, the aliens introduced multiple simultaneous crises: a hull breach, power fluctuations, and a simulated enemy attack. They expected chaos, confusion, and mistakes. Instead, the humans responded with astonishing efficiency. One group sealed the breach while another rerouted power to critical systems. Navigation officers adjusted the ship's trajectory to minimize damage, while weapons teams targeted threats preemptively. Each action reinforced the others, creating a feedback loop of efficiency that the aliens could not break. They began to understand that humans did not just adapt, they thrived in chaos. The more complicated the situation, the more capable they became. The aliens also observed the humans' resilience. They noticed that even when one section of the ship experienced simulated destruction, humans in that area continued working calmly and effectively. Injuries, system failures, and unexpected obstacles did not slow them down. Each crew member took responsibility for their role, supported their teammates, and adapted instantly to new conditions. The aliens realized that human resilience was not just physical, it was mental and emotional as well. They were capable of focusing under extreme stress, making rational decisions while others might panic, and maintaining morale even in life-threatening situations. Another surprising discovery was how humans learned from every scenario. During simulations, the crew would adjust their strategies based on outcomes, improving performance with each iteration. Mistakes were rare, but when they occurred, humans adapted immediately, ensuring they did not repeat them. The aliens had studied many species capable of learning, but humans learned faster, more efficiently, and more creatively than any species the aliens had ever encountered. They were capable of analyzing complex situations, drawing conclusions, and applying new knowledge in ways that were both effective and unpredictable. The aliens began to notice something even more concerning. Humans seemed to anticipate the unexpected. When the aliens tried to introduce new variables into simulations, humans often responded before the threat fully materialized. They predicted outcomes, prepared countermeasures, and adapted strategies with incredible foresight. It was not luck or random chance. It was instinct honed through experience and intelligence. The aliens calculated that a species capable of anticipating threats in this way could not be easily defeated or controlled. They were watching something extraordinary, a species that had evolved for survival in a universe full of uncertainty. The humans' courage also stood out. The aliens saw that even when faced with simulated threats that should have been overwhelming, humans acted without hesitation. They took calculated risks, made bold decisions, and did not wait for perfect conditions to act. The aliens tried to predict their next moves, but humans continually outpaced their calculations. The combination of courage, skill, and improvisation made humans terrifyingly effective. It was no wonder that rumors of human warships had spread across the galaxy. Any fleet encountering them would face a species capable of extraordinary feats. As the aliens continued their analysis, they realized that humans were unpredictable in ways that went beyond tactics and technology. Their creativity, adaptability, and courage made them a force of nature. The warship was impressive, but it was the human minds controlling it that made it formidable. They did not rely solely on protocols, simulations, or pre-programmed responses. They thought, adapted, and acted in real time, creating outcomes that no alien algorithm could anticipate. Every decision, every movement, and every improvisation reinforced the same conclusion. Humans could not be underestimated. By the end of their observations, the aliens were no longer merely curious. They were frightened. They had expected to see a powerful warship, but what they witnessed was something far more dangerous. A species capable of mastering technology, strategy, and unpredictability in ways that no other species could match. Humans were not only prepared for conflict, they were experts at adapting, surviving, and thriving under pressure. The aliens understood that confronting humans directly could lead to disastrous consequences, even for the most advanced fleets. As the human warship continued its journey, silent and unwavering, the aliens withdrew from their observation post. They would report their findings, warn their leaders, and update their simulations. But the truth was clear. Humans were a species to be respected, feared, and never underestimated. The ship moved through the stars, unaware of the attention it had drawn, focused only on its mission and the routines that had made it so effective. The humans aboard were calm, diligent, and prepared, embodying the resilience, ingenuity, and courage that had made them a living legend in the galaxy. Even as the aliens left, they could not shake the sense of awe and fear. Humans were not merely another species. They were an enigma, a challenge, and a force that could not be predicted or controlled. The more the aliens observed, the more they realized that the galaxy had misjudged humanity for centuries. What they had thought was a minor threat was, in fact, a species capable of surviving anything, adapting to everything, and overcoming all obstacles. The human warship moving silently through space was a testament to their ingenuity, their courage, and their relentless determination to survive and thrive, no matter what the universe threw at them. The aliens returned to their reports, to their councils, and to the simulations that had guided their understanding for centuries. Yet all of it now seemed inadequate. Humans were different. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were dangerous. And in that realization, the aliens knew that the galaxy would never see a species like them again. Not because humans sought conquest, but because they had mastered survival in a way that left no room for error. Any civilization encountering humans would have to. The aliens had been watching for hours, scanning every deck, every corridor, every system of the human warship. What they had initially thought would be a routine observation had turned into a nightmare of possibilities. Each human movement, each calculated adjustment, each improvisation revealed capabilities the aliens could barely comprehend. They had come to study a ship, but what they found was far greater. They were witnessing the raw ingenuity, adaptability, and resilience of humanity itself. The aliens focused on the ship's weapon systems once again. They had seen the humans operate them before, but this time, they zoomed in for detailed analysis. Each weapon was compact but devastating, and the way the humans managed energy outputs and targeting made the systems far more effective than anything the aliens had anticipated. When a simulated threat appeared on one side of the ship, humans not only countered it, but also adjusted other weapons preemptively to cover potential vulnerabilities. The aliens tried to simulate counterattacks, but every prediction failed. The humans were always one step ahead, even in situations the aliens themselves created. What was most alarming was the speed of human adaptation. In every simulated emergency, humans reacted instantly, improvising new solutions faster than the aliens could process. When a hull breach appeared during one simulation, a human team sealed it while another team rerouted energy to reinforce adjacent systems. At the same time, navigation officers adjusted the ship's course to avoid further hazards, and weapons teams recalibrated targeting to counter potential threats. The aliens observed with growing unease. realizing that no other species they had studied could coordinate such complex actions under extreme stress with such efficiency. The aliens then analyzed human decision-making in crisis scenarios. They noticed that humans did not rely solely on protocol or pre-programmed responses. Instead, each crew member assessed the situation independently, made a judgment, and acted in coordination with others. This level of decision-making was unpredictable, impossible to fully model, and highly effective. Even when multiple crises occurred simultaneously, humans maintained clarity, focus, and composure. It was not just training, it was instinct, honed over generations, reinforced by experience, and amplified by the design of the ship itself. Another shocking observation was the humans' ability to anticipate outcomes. The aliens introduced variables meant to confuse or destabilize the crew. Meteoroid simulations, power fluctuations, and hypothetical enemy attacks were introduced in combination. Every time the humans anticipated potential consequences, responded before the full threat manifested, and adapted their tactics seamlessly. The aliens could not understand how humans could predict so many variables so accurately. It was as if they had an innate understanding of chaos, a natural ability to survive and thrive in situations that would overwhelm any other species. The aliens were also captivated and terrified by human resilience. Even when parts of the ship were destroyed in simulations, humans continued functioning as though nothing had changed. They repaired systems quickly, redistributed workloads, and maintained operational efficiency. The aliens had never witnessed a species that could absorb setbacks, learn from them instantly, and emerge stronger. Every action, every adjustment, and every improvisation demonstrated that humans were not just survivors, they were masters of adaptation. The ship itself played a critical role in enhancing human effectiveness. Hidden compartments, self-repairing systems, and energy amplifiers allowed humans to respond to crises in ways the aliens could not anticipate. The humans did not merely operate the ship, they guided it, collaborated with it, and leveraged its capabilities to amplify their own ingenuity. The aliens realized that in a real confrontation, the warship would act as an extension of human intelligence, enhancing unpredictability and lethality. No conventional fleet, no matter how large, could rely on standard tactics against humans who were this capable. The aliens studied human coordination more closely. Even when crew members were separated by decks or systems failures, they operated in perfect synchrony. Commands were subtle. Gestures, vocal cues, and rapid decision-making all flowed seamlessly. The aliens attempted to simulate this coordination, but their models collapsed under the complexity. Humans did not act in predictable patterns. They created new patterns in response to changing situations, constantly adapting, adjusting, and improving their effectiveness. It was a living network of intelligence, decentralized yet highly unified. As the observation continued, the aliens realized the humans' capacity for creative problem-solving was extraordinary. In one scenario, a simulated reactor failure threatened to disable critical systems. Rather than relying on standard procedures, the humans devised an unorthodox method to stabilize energy flows, combining multiple subsystems in a way that maximized efficiency and minimized risk. Alien simulations could not replicate this solution. The humans had invented a solution on the fly, demonstrating adaptability, ingenuity, and courage under pressure. It was a level of improvisation the aliens had never seen in any other species. The aliens also noted the humans' courage. Even when facing simulated disasters that should have caused panic, humans acted decisively. They calculated risks and took bold actions to protect the ship and themselves. The aliens attempted to predict human reactions, but humans continually outmaneuvered expectations. Their combination of intelligence, instinct, and courage made them unpredictable. And unpredictability on this scale meant that any engagement with humans could lead to devastating consequences. What made humans truly terrifying, the aliens realized, was that they seemed to thrive under stress. The more complex and dangerous the situation became, the more focused and effective humans were. Stress did not paralyze them. It sharpened their decision-making and coordination. Their ability to remain calm while improvising solutions and making strategic adjustments was unprecedented. No other species observed by the aliens had shown such resilience, creativity, and operational excellence under extreme pressure. The aliens began to see the broader implications of what they were observing. A single human warship with a crew operating at this level could outmatch entire fleets of conventional warships. The humans' combination of technology, adaptability, improvisation, and resilience made them a force that could not be accurately predicted or countered with traditional strategies. The aliens realized that humanity's strength lay not just in firepower, but in the minds and instincts controlling it. It was intelligence and courage amplified by technology, and it was terrifying. As they continued to analyze, the aliens noticed humans learning from every simulation. Even minor errors or unforeseen obstacles were immediately addressed, and strategies adjusted in real time. Human intelligence was not static. It was active, evolving, and creative. Every crisis became an opportunity to improve systems, tactics, and responses. The aliens realized that a species capable of learning this rapidly and this creatively could not be contained or controlled easily. Humans were not only resilient, they were self-improving. The aliens finally understood the scale of what they had discovered. Humans were not just a powerful species. They were unpredictable, intelligent, adaptable, courageous, and resourceful in ways that no simulation or model could fully capture. Their warship was not merely a vessel. It was a manifestation of human ingenuity, a platform that amplified the crew's ability to respond, improvise, and overcome. It was a perfect combination of technology and human instinct, and the aliens knew that any encounter with humans could be disastrous if they underestimated the risks. The human crew continued their routines, unaware of the observation and analysis they were under. They repaired systems, trained, adjusted energy outputs, and coordinated maneuvers with quiet precision. Every movement was purposeful, every action effective, and every decision calculated. The aliens could only watch in awe and fear. They realized that humanity was not just prepared for conflict, it was prepared for anything. The warship, silent and relentless, moved through space as if it were a living entity, guided by minds capable of extraordinary feats. By the end of their observation, the aliens were no longer curious, they were alarmed. They had expected a warship. They had found a species capable of thinking, adapting, improvising, and surviving in ways that defied every expectation. They had underestimated humans for centuries, and now they understood the consequences of that underestimation. Humanity was not a species to be controlled or predicted. It was a species to be respected, feared, and never taken lightly. As the human warship traveled on, the aliens withdrew to their observation posts. They would report what they had seen, and their reports would carry a single chilling message. Humans were not just another species in the galaxy. They were a force of nature. The ship moved silently, oblivious to the fear it inspired. The crew focused on preparation, efficiency, and readiness for whatever might come next. The aliens left with the knowledge that humanity was extraordinary, resilient, and unpredictable, and that the galaxy had yet to encounter a species like it. Even as they returned to their own civilization, the aliens could not forget what they had seen. Humans were more than clever or brave. They were masters of adaptation, problem-solving, and coordinatio. The aliens had been observing the human warship for days, perhaps even weeks, though their perception of time was different from humans. Each scan, each simulation, each analysis revealed more about the humans than the aliens ever expected. By now, the fear in their observation chamber had grown into something deeper, respect mixed with awe and a profound sense of unease. They understood that they were not simply watching a machine or a fleet. They were witnessing the culmination of human adaptability, intelligence, and courage in its purest form. The humans continued their routines, completely unaware of the fear they inspired. They ran drills, maintained the ship, and adjusted systems as though it were just another day. Yet every gesture, every decision, every improvisation displayed a level of competence and instinct that the aliens could not predict. They moved as if the ship were part of them, their minds and bodies fully integrated with the vessel. The aliens had seen skilled species before, but humans were different. Their skill was not taught alone. It was innate, instinctive, and amplified by experience and preparation. The aliens tried to simulate combat against the humans. They modeled countless scenarios, using their most advanced technology and strategy algorithms. In every simulation, the humans adapted in ways that no model could predict. They repaired damage before it became critical, redirected energy to compensate for failures, and deployed weapons with precision beyond calculation. Even when multiple crises occurred simultaneously, humans did not panic. Instead, they coordinated, improvised, and continued to perform with efficiency and creativity. The aliens' confidence in their own strategies began to crumble. They observed the humans' ability to turn weakness into strength. A damaged system was never just a problem, it was an opportunity. Humans could reroute energy, adapt tactics, and compensate for failures so smoothly that the aliens often missed the adjustments entirely until it was too late in their simulations. Humans were not limited by rigid rules or algorithms. They created solutions in real time. Every repair, every adjustment, every tactical maneuver demonstrated a level of ingenuity that left the aliens speechless. The humans were a species that turned challenges into advantages, danger into opportunity, and chaos into order. The aliens were particularly unsettled by the humans' fearlessness. Even when the simulations introduced overwhelming threats, asteroid swarms, hull breaches, enemy attacks, system failures, humans responded without hesitation. They acted decisively, made calculated risks, and coordinated their actions instinctively. No panic, no confusion, no wasted time. The aliens realized that humans did not fear danger in the way other species did. They understood it, analyzed it, and confronted it with confidence. This fearlessness, combined with intelligence and adaptability, made humans unpredictable and highly effective. The humans' coordination was another element that terrified the aliens. Each crew member acted independently, yet as part of a seamless whole. Orders were often unnecessary. Subtle gestures, quick glances, and intuitive understanding allowed the crew to move as one. The aliens attempted to model this coordination mathematically, but their algorithms failed to capture its complexity. Humans were not merely following instructions, they were creating strategies as they acted, improvising in ways that were coherent, effective, and astonishingly fast. The aliens realized that predicting human actions in any scenario was virtually impossible. The aliens also observed the humans' capacity for learning. Mistakes were rare, but when they occurred, humans adapted immediately. They incorporated the lessons from every situation into new strategies, improving their effectiveness with each attempt. The aliens noted that humans did not rely solely on memory or experience. They combined observation, intuition, and creativity to continuously refine their approach. A crisis was not a setback for humans. It was a lesson, a chance to become even stronger and more capable. As the warship moved silently through space, the aliens focused on its systems once more. Hidden compartments, advanced energy management, adaptive weapons, and self-repairing modules made the ship extraordinarily resilient. Yet it was the humans who activated, guided, and enhanced these systems that made the vessel truly formidable. Alone, the ship was impressive. With humans at the controls, it became nearly unstoppable. The aliens realized that they were not just observing a warship. They were observing a living demonstration of human ingenuity and capability. In one particularly detailed simulation, the aliens introduced multiple disasters simultaneously: a massive hull breach, system overloads, and simulated enemy attacks from all directions. They expected chaos, hesitation, and mistakes. What they witnessed instead was seamless coordination. Humans repaired critical systems while rerouting power, adjusted navigation to avoid collisions, and targeted enemy threats with pinpoint accuracy. Even in the face of overwhelming adversity, humans acted as if the situation were routine. The aliens were forced to acknowledge that no other species they had encountered could operate so effectively under such extreme pressure. The aliens also noticed a subtle but significant trait. Humans were relentless. They did not give up, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable odds. If a system failed, they repaired it. If a strategy faltered, they adapted it. If a threat appeared from an unexpected direction, they countered it with creativity and precision. Humans were tireless in their problem-solving and unyielding in their pursuit of survival. Every action reinforced the truth that humans could overcome virtually any obstacle. Another aspect that struck the aliens was humans' ingenuity in using their environment to their advantage. They could manipulate energy flows, weapons outputs, and even their own ship's trajectory in ways that maximized efficiency while minimizing risk. Nothing went to waste, and every action had a purpose. The aliens tried to anticipate the humans' next move in simulations, but the humans often acted in ways that were both unexpected and optimal. Their ability to innovate under pressure, combined with their fearlessness and coordination, made them a species no one could predict or outmaneuver. The aliens realized that humans were also capable of anticipating threats before they fully materialized. When faced with multiple variables, they prepared countermeasures in advance, often mitigating danger before it could affect the ship or crew. Their foresight was not mechanical, it was instinctive, informed by intelligence, experience, and adaptability. The aliens understood that humans were not merely reacting, they were actively shaping outcomes to their advantage, even in situations the aliens themselves created. By now, the aliens were profoundly aware of the scale of the human threat. One warship, with a skilled crew operating at this level, could easily outmatch entire fleets designed for conventional warfare. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, courageous, and relentless. They combined intelligence, instinct, adaptability, and coordination in a way that no other species had ever demonstrated. The aliens understood that any engagement with humans could result in outcomes that were both devastating and uncontrollable. Despite all this, the humans continued their routines, focused and diligent. They checked systems, ran drills, monitored energy flows, and coordinated tasks with calm precision. There was no sign of arrogance, no hint of fear, only competence, discipline, and determination. The aliens realized that humans' true power lay not just in their technology, but in the minds guiding it. Every adjustment, every innovation, and every improvisation demonstrated the extraordinary capacity of human intelligence and resilience. The aliens knew that the humans would continue to evolve and adapt. Every encounter, every challenge, and every crisis would only make them stronger. Unlike other species, humans did not merely survive, they learned, improved, and innovated. They were a force of nature, capable of turning setbacks into opportunities and chaos into order. The aliens recognized that humanity's potential was limitless, and that underestimating them could be catastrophic. As the human warship moved through the stars, silent and relentless, the aliens withdrew. They would report their findings, warn others, and attempt to prepare for a species that defied prediction. But they knew that no preparation could fully account for humans' creativity, courage, and adaptability. The ship itself became a symbol of what humans could achieve, a testament to ingenuity, resilience, and the will to survive. The aliens could not help but respect the humans. They had underestimated them for centuries, and now the truth was undeniable. Humans were extraordinary, capable of feats that no simulation or strategy could fully encompass. They were masters of adaptation, improvisation, and coordination. Their courage and determination were unmatched, and their intelligence, both individual and collective, made them unpredictable and formidable. As the observation concluded, the aliens realized that the human warship was more than a vessel. It was the embodiment of humanity itself. It represented their ingenuity, their resourcefulness, their courage, and their relentless drive to survive and thrive. The humans aboard were unaware of the impact they had on an entire civilization. Yet their presence had changed the aliens' understanding of power, strategy, and survival forever. In the quiet of their observation chambers, the aliens made one final calculation. Humanity was not just another species in the galaxy. They were extraordinary.